Had misplaced the sensor for the temperature in the cab. Should be in the hole here. It was under the stereo where it's hotter because of the computers. The plastic connection had broken and they had fixed it with some copper pipe at some point. It was like that. Well, moved it to the correct place. The tabs that are supposed to hold it in place wasn't really functioning super well, so ended up drilling a couple of small holes and securing it with the zip tie. The hose was also kind of kinked, so replaced that with a new hose and kind of looped it around a little more to avoid kinking it. Getting the sensor back in place didn't help one bit. Still cold in the cab when running the machine, so we have to dig deeper. Oh, 31 kilo ohms now that it's cold. So blowing on it, it dips to around 10 kilo ohms where it should be at 25 degrees. So I would guess this sensor is functioning, so have to dig deeper. Damn it. Opened up where the knobs for the fan and heat are. Got the same reading on both of them, so guess they are okay. So this one seems to be working at least. Get 0 ohms, it's fully closed, and 500 fully open, or whichever way you want to call it. So I think the problem is here, so let's open more stuff. I think the unit back here has to do with this, and it's black and red wires coming out to the connector at the top that I suspect are for the various sensors in the cab, so I'm trying to remove that and start measuring things. Got the connector out, measured everything, got the same reading, close to the same reading on all 4 sensors. And I'm right at 35, and I think it's the same sensor for all the different 37, so 37. So it seems like all the sensors are functioning at least. So being quite confident that the electrical part inside the cab is functioning as it should, unless the box is faulty, but we'll start measuring the output in a little bit for the magnetic valves under the cab, but put the cabin temperature sensor back in place for now. Removing the bolt that locks the cab in place. Then it's about finding something to get in there and twist this a quarter turn to unlock the cab itself so it can be tilted up. And it's nice with a electrical switch just to tilt it up. A little older unit, and it would have had a hand pump for it. Still can't get any heat in the cabin. There is an electric valve here. I've checked the electrical part, and it gives voltage to it when it should. I get heat when running the diesel heater, so something is working. There is another one that helps out with because the coolant can help heat the hydraulic oil. I think we have some issues here. If we move a little further back, we also have an electric pump back here that might be something that's supposed to help circulate the coolant, so that might be the problem over there. So, because it might be too hard for the engine to push the coolant all the way if it has to pass through the coil in the hydraulic tank. So something is up. And I noticed there was a fuse on the connection here that I want to check. And the fuse is burnt, so we might have the big problem here. It's a little small 3 amp fuse.
After doing some measuring and research, the magnetic valves are only on and off type. They can't be in a middle position, so they either have 24 volt or 0. And if you have a middle temperature in the cab, it cycles 24 0 24 0 to get a suitable amount of heat. The front one that has an arrow on it now, that one controls if the coolant goes into the cabin heat element. If it's at 0 volt, you have heat to the cab, and that's normally what happens if you burn a fuse or something. It doesn't get power and you get extremely hot in the cab. That's not the case right now. But it functions correctly, the valve. I get the correct voltage when I put it to very, very cold with the knob. It gets a 24 volt reading and should close, and most of the time it's at 0. And even if unbolting this connector, I don't get any heat. So the magnetic valve further back only seems to operate when you run the diesel heater, and it powers it, and that should force coolant into the oil tank. So it seems that the heating for the oil tank is only active if you run the diesel heater also, not during normal operation. And if you have 0 voltage to it, it should be in a position where it cycles the coolant straight back to the engine. Took a few thermal shots as we first started up the diesel heater, then the unit failed on me, so I just got a couple of them. I will try to get more of these if I do more tests. Confirmed the extra unit back for the hydraulic tank is not operational once you start the engine. Gave up after this for today.